Hey, it's me, and welcome to Trump Mafia. Now, this was not expected, but some Russian businessmen mentioned in the Trump dossier decided to sue for defamation. So, because of discovery and the whole trial, many issues came to light and a lot of new information. And this is really thanks to those Russian businessmen, so we have to thank them for that, because it's part of unveiling all the secrets. Now, one thing that really jumped out is that John McDead not only gave the dossier to the FBI, because that we already knew for more than 1 year, but he also gave it to Buzzfeed, to CNN, and to the Choco administration. Now think of it. John McDead, a so-called Republican, gets a filth dossier and goes and gives it to Choco. And on top of that, he also gave it to Paul Ryan and other media outlets. Then you had James Comey talking about the Trump dossier with the president-elect Donald J. Trump. Then, of course, John Brennan had it. The FBI discussed it internally, and they also used it for FISA warrants. So a FISA court judge also saw it. And so these Russians lost the defamation case because BuzzFeed was publishing something that most of these media outlets already had, and it was circulating in the highest levels of government, the FBI and the courts, and even in the Oval Office at the CIA. So the media won. BuzzFeed won the case because they have a right to publish something that's already out there anyway. So it's really because of John McDead and James Comey and other people just putting that dossier in everybody's hands, especially in high levels of government, that then enabled BuzzFeed to win the defamation case. And so you're looking at a dossier that Christopher Steele in court had to admit was specifically created to challenge the election results should Hillary lose the election. And so this means that Hillary and the people around her had an inkling that they could lose, and they already created, together with the DNC and the Choco administration, a mechanism and a dossier to challenge the election results, to interfere in our election system, and to cast doubt on the president-elect. So we're talking about people who were running for office. So Hillary was running to be president, and she already created a mechanism to undermine our elections in case she lost. I mean, that is unheard of, and for this, all of these people have to be interviewed. I mean, the DNC was involved, and the Choco administration gave money to Fusion GPS for the same purpose. The Hillary campaign, James Comey and the FBI were involved. John McDead was involved. So we're not talking about a company here that was just doing opposition research. We're talking about creating a dossier specifically designed to attack our election system. I mean, forget about Trump. Forget about that it was Donald J. Trump that won, and just focus on the fact that if one party and one candidate did not win, they already had a plan to undermine our election system. And so they blamed it on Russia. Now Russia, China, and other nations, they're always putting out some info here and there online before elections, and that's pretty normal. It doesn't have an impact, to be honest. But what Hillary Clinton did, what the DNC did, and what Choco did is straight up interfering in our election process and also with the result of an election. So they were monkeying around with our election system, and it's election interference. So, everybody's blaming the Russians, and they were trying to blame Trump, but in fact it was the DNC and Hillary Clinton and Choco that were interfering with our elections. And given all that, you realize that this dossier was not created to have Trump lose in the election. It was meant to undermine a sitting president or president-elect. And you know what that is? That is subversive. I mean, these are subversive activities, and yes, they're crimes against our nation and against our elections. So of course you have many laws that go with elections, and so they're going after Trump for campaign finance violations when that is not even true. And even if it was, Choco did the same, but for several $1,000,000, all you have to do is pay a small fine. But what we're talking about here is election interference and also subversive activities to undermine not only a sitting president, but our election system. So the DNC, the Hillary campaign, and the Choco administration attacked our election system, and that cannot go unpunished, because what we're talking about here is the DNC and of course Hillary and Choco trying to undermine the public's confidence by doing all of that, and in addition trying to come up with some story that Russia and President Trump were colluding and making it even worse. So the number one aim was to undermine the public's confidence in the outcome of elections. Now, if you're Hillary and all the polls say you have 95% chance of winning, why would they still engage in that behavior? It simply means that they did not just want to win. They wanted to make sure that if something happens, they would still end up winning by undermining the person that did win, but that they had a plan to destroy our election system in the first place. So if you look at the ghost indictments of the Mueller team versus the Russian troll farm and also the Russian intelligence officers, when you actually read the indictments, you can change all those names to James Comey, Hillary Clinton, or whoever was involved from the DNC, and Choco. And the indictments would be the same, and it would be very serious. And if Mueller can conjure up 10 or 12 different types of charges for that behavior, then you can do the same for Hillary Clinton, Choco, and even James Comey. Because James Comey here is someone who is in big trouble because of it. Now he's coming out saying that the Republicans first did the Trump dossier, which is not true. Jeb Bush hired this company in 2015, then he got out. Then months later, the DNC used the company, and only after that, the Trump dossier was started. And so there are many months in between. And when Jeb Bush was involved with Fusion GPS, there was no Trump dossier at all. There was not even a plan to make it. But if you look at Hillary's involvement, Sidney Blumenthal, her muse and advisor, actually went over to meet with Chris Steele, and he had his own contributions for the Trump dossier. As you know, the Trump or Steele dossier, it's like a collection of raw data coming from different sources. The Kremlin, the Russians, or some other players, and then also from Sidney Blumenthal. So it's like the Hillary campaign wanted to make sure that there's enough dirt in that dossier to really undermine a sitting president. Now, Hillary Clinton's behavior after the election was not accepting the result. I mean, she wrote a book saying how she lost for 200 reasons, and she was not one of them. She went on a book tour telling the whole world that it's not a legitimate president, that Trump is a sexual abuser, that they colluded with Russia, and a whole list of other things, really trying to undermine the whole world's perception of American elections and our public as well, that there's no more confidence in elections. And the media, of course, backing her up for more than 2 years almost, really undermining the public's confidence in elections. And a lot of that has to do with Hillary Clinton herself, but even Choco, and James Comey, and of course John Brennan, and James Clapper, and even Susan Rice, they were all in the same boat, trying to blow up the public's confidence in elections. And so you have a sitting president that they don't like, but it's not like they don't like Trump. I mean, it's the whole system they wanted to blow up. So it's not just sabotage of President Trump himself, but sabotage of our election system. And that's why you can get other people to really look at this issue on a basis that is not political. That it's not about Trump. It's about the office of president, but it's about our election system and how one party can use outside spies like Chris Steele and other people from British intelligence who are also involved, and Australian intelligence, to undermine the confidence the public has in our elections. So yes, I'm saying that foreign nations like the UK, Australia, were involved in helping Hillary Clinton, the DNC, and Choco to undermine US elections and the result of that presidential election. And so it's not just about Trump. It's about these foreign nations and the DNC and Hillary and the Choco regime wanting to blow up our election system. And that is what radicals do. Because in fair elections, they can't win. Without election fraud, they can't win. They really need illegals. They need dead people to vote. They need multiple voting. They have to destroy the opposition and somehow try to force a forfeit. And if you look at the whole Mueller probe, the extension of it, it's exactly for that purpose. It is to try to get a forfeit of Donald J. Trump so that a Democrat can easily win. And they also want to undermine the public's confidence in the next election result should President Trump get reelected. That people still will spend another 4 years saying that there was some cheating involved, that President Trump colluded with China this time, or Saudi Arabia. And that's why Mueller is also going after Middle East contacts now. It has nothing to do with Russia. But they want to look at the funds that the RNC is getting from Saudi Arabia or the Emirates. And I will remind everybody that the Hillary campaign, 25% of their whole budget from the 1.2 billion came from Saudi Arabia alone. All those billionaires that were put in jail, well, they were all giving that much money to Hillary Clinton. So if you really look at that issue, then Hillary Clinton will be the loser again. So what does this mean? It means that a lot of establishment people, even within the DOJ and the FBI, now have something else to chew on, which is that it's not political. They can go after this without looking like they're political, because it's about preserving the election system that we have and the public trust in that election system and voting results. So you always see Dim-Dems crying about people checking voter fraud or voter ID, like you're suppressing votes. But really now, if you look at everything they did to undermine our election system, it is they, the Dim-Dems, that really want to destroy the process and the confidence that people have in election results. And the media is complicit. all of the left-wing media is making it that even if Trump gets reelected in 2020, they still won't believe it, because that is how much they focused on blowing up the election system in our republic. So the DOJ and the FBI, they can really go after this and look at the rules, because if you look at the Mueller probe and everything they're charging in these indictments, just read them back to some of these people at the DOJ. Because if they're all about the law and they can go after some people for interfering in elections and that behavior and all of that, then okay, let's look at what Hillary did in the DNC and the Choco regime, and even James Comey and even John Brennan. You know, these people who were on Twitter helping to undermine the public trust in our election system. The whole year 2017 and some of this year, these people were out there, and you have thousands of retweets, and they're going on CNN and MSNBC and joining Hillary Clinton with her What Happened book tour to really undermine the public trust in our elections. So I repeat, the new thing is that this dossier was widespread, and it was specifically made to undermine our election system. And it was made with the help of Russia and the UK and Australia. And of course, Hillary Clinton, her whole campaign, the DNC, and Choco and his administration, which includes John Brennan and James Comey at the FBI. I mean, this is not about Trump anymore. I mean, the Trump thing is also serious for us, but as Americans, you know, you look at this, and it's almost like, you know, we have ultra-radicals trying to destroy our republic. And if you really look at the Mueller probe, it's an extension of that. Mueller's really trying to undermine the power and the presence of the executive branch and the power of the office of the president. And it's also not anymore related to President Trump. It's related to these radical people on the left with all their tools and corrupt officials attacking our republic and our election systems. And again, why is that? Because they know if it's a fair and level playing field, then them will always lose. Because they have nothing. They are nothing. They can only win if they cheat. And that's what they're doing. And it's not just cheating, it's blowing up the whole system. Just like with ChocoCare. I mean, the reason ChocoCare was so expensive and not sustainable is that it would blow up at some point. Then they can replace it with one payer, and that was the plan all along. But something happened, and that is we elected Donald J. Trump to be president of our United States. But now you have these people, and even in 2016 they set in motion a whole mechanism to undermine our election process and system and to undermine the public trust. So just for that, the DOJ and the FBI, you know, they could appoint a special counsel to look at that. And they don't have to say this is about Trump. No, they can say this is about our republic and our election system, the power of the executive branch, the office of president. You don't even have to mention Trump. And that way they have cover to just dig into it, and whoever's guilty has to be held responsible and punished. And of course, as a side, we can all see that President Trump was attacked as a consequence. But I see it now more as an attack on our very republic and our whole system, the whole Article 2. I mean, this is mind-boggling. This is radical beyond belief. This is an attack on our nation, orchestrated by the Choco regime with Valerie Jarrett and Choco. The Hillary campaign, the DNC, with help from people in the CIA and the FBI. And so, as you know, I always like to tie things together, especially if I mention some issues in other videos long ago. For the long-time listeners of this channel, that, it all comes together, really. In one video I mentioned how Dim Dems actually know they have nothing. I mean, Choco set them back to 1925, and they're making a comeback slowly, but they still have no message. Even now, to find somebody for 2020, it's so pathetic. Joe Biden or Beto or camel-faced Harris. I mean, it seems like they know they're on a path to nowhere, and they lucked out with Choco. They lucked out. And Choco was a failure, and he started some things, but he was a failure. They wasted 8 years, in their opinion. And that's why, in their opinion, they also lost the midterms every time. But they wanted to have a continuation. They didn't want to give up control because they know that without illegals, they can't win. And they see something happening on the GOP side. And a lot of people are just turning away from Dim Dems. And so they're that desperate that they will run, at the same time create a mechanism to undermine whoever wins if it's not the Dim Dem. I mean, think of it. Imagine President Trump, then candidate Donald J. Trump, was running against Hillary, but at the same time he concocted a Hillary dossier that if she would win, that this would come into effect. Suddenly there would be a special counsel and everything to take her out. But it wouldn't be about Hillary. It would be about trying to blow up the public trust in our election outcomes. Because one thing is not to like an outcome of an election. The other side of it, the more radical side of it, is that if we don't win, then we blow it up. I mean, that's what radicals say. And I know it seems like too late to talk about it, but no, 2020 is coming up. Now is the time to talk about it, because they're going to pull the same BS all over again, and the Mueller probe is doing exactly that. That's why I know Mueller's going to go on and on and on to undermine the public trust in our elections. So Bill Barr, the bulldog, when he gets into the AG, he has something really juicy to take care of when he's Attorney General, and that is to assign maybe a special team like the Untouchables or a special counsel to look at that issue. And don't call it, protecting Trump or something like that. Just talk about our election process, the undermining of the public trust in our elections, election interference, and just go look at all the laws that you have regarding our elections. And they broke like 100 of them. And I'm not even joking. And all of these people are involved. Now the media covers for them and helped them for almost 2 years, and it's the media. They come out with monkey business, they lie all the time. They're hiding behind freedom of the press. But we also have to realize that fake news media is just a part of the Democrat Party, the same Democrat Party that helped make that Trump dossier to undermine Trump and a sitting president and the confidence people have in an election result. So they're an extension also of the Hillary campaign or of the Choco administration. So you have to see them as sidekicks and assistants to the real criminals. And I see because of this, Choco received a dossier, and he knew, and he participated in it. He even gave money to Fusion GPS for the Trump dossier. Guilty. Hillary Clinton, it's her campaign, and for the most part, giving the money to the Fusion GPS to make a Trump dossier, even sending Sidney Blumenthal to Chris Steele to add some more dirt to this file. Hillary Clinton, guilty. James Comey, meeting with Chris Steele and recommending Chris Steele, knowing that Fusion GPS is working with the Hillary campaign and paying for that Trump dossier. James Comey, guilty. John Brennan, spreading the information, then making it out that all the intelligence agencies are pretty much going with the Trump dossier, knowing that it's all false, not corroborated. John Brennan, guilty. And of course you have many more, but those people for sure have to be interrogated, and very soon. So I'm hoping the Bulldog, Bill Barr, is going to go in there and really tell these people, look, it's not about Trump. You don't like Trump? Fine. I don't care. It's about our elections. It's about the public trust. It's about our Constitution. It's about our election system. And then they will feel more responsibility, right? They don't have to think about Trump. They can put their Trump derangement syndrome aside and do their damn jobs. And so I'm thinking about a team of untouchables that get special access, special powers, or a special counsel. Special counsel, you get an individual, and it's always going to be a mess. I'm thinking about a DOJ special team, special forces, to protect our elections. So if they can have Mueller, if Mueller was really interested in the integrity of our elections, he would have indicted Chris Steele. He would have indicted Hillary Clinton and the DNC people for creating that Trump dossier specifically designed to undermine our election system. And even now, with this information coming out, Robert Mueller should be sending people over to arrest some of these people, including Hillary Clinton and her campaign managers and people at Fusion GPS and Bruce Orr. But of course he's not going to do it, because Mueller himself is part of the undermining of our election system. Imagine that. And so I'm saying Robert Mueller should be indicted for interfering in our elections, and not only because of undermining the result of 2016, but his Mueller probe also may have helped Dems to win the House back. And so I'm saying that he will continue until 2020, and then he will also interfere in that election, simply by lying about Russia collusion to protect the real collusion that there was with Russia and with various players to undermine our election system and to undermine President Donald J. Trump, a sitting U.S. president. So Mueller, guilty as well.
Shadowy flight into the dangerous world of a man who does not exist. A young loner on a crusade to champion the cause of the innocent, the helpless, the powerless, in a world of criminals who operate above